finally, after only 2 hours and a quarter minutes of warm-up and faff, it is time for us to read some of the trauma-related structural dissociation of the personality by Ella Nielhouse. Nienhouse. Yeah, I'm just going to look up a pronunciation of this first. Because, Mira, you tried, but I have no idea how to read your version of phonetic. Pronunciation. Here we go.
In this video you will see how pronounce this word. The word you are watching sounds like Nagenhis.
Nagenhis. Nagenhis.
Nagenhis.
The Nagenhis. The Nagenhis. His. That's bullshit. Is this bullshit? This is saying it like how a Boer would say it in South Africa, I feel. That's the only reason why I can read the occasional bit of Dutch, because of South Africanness. How to say it in Dutch? Yeah, because it will be said in Afrikaans as well.
Nijenhuis.
Nijenhuis. Nijenhuis. Nijenhuis. Oh, tablet bugger. Right, let's go. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm sorry. It's doing it. Stop faffing. I think I need my glasses. Or just to zoom in. Just zoom in a bit more. Oh my gosh. Old man Pete getting ready to read. Many traumatized individuals. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so annoying. Many traumatized individuals alternate between re-experiencing their trauma and being detached from, or even relatively unaware of the trauma and its effects. At first sight, one may be inclined to conceptualize detachment from trauma and re-experiencing of trauma as mental states. However, on closer scrutiny, it becomes apparent that in both cases, a range or cluster of states rather than a singular state is involved. For example, being detached from trauma does not itself exclude being joyful, ashamed, sexually aroused, or curious at times. And re-experiencing trauma can encompass states such as fleeing, freezing, and being in pain, or being analgesic. Yes, I agree with all of this so far. In this paper, we relate detachment from trauma and re-experiencing trauma to emotional operating systems and functional systems, briefly addressed as action systems. Action systems control a range of functions, but some are more complex than others. Re-experiencing trauma will be associated with the inborn and evolutionary-derived defensive system that is evoked by severe threat, in particular, threat to the integrity of the body. As a complex system, it encompasses various subsystems, such as flight, freeze, and fight. Detachment from trauma, in our view, is associated with several action systems, i.e. the ones that control functions in daily life, e.g. exploration of the environment, energy control, e.g. exploration of the environment, energy control. Oh, he means like, yeah, not like, I hope he doesn't mean like magic energy control. And the ones that are dedicated to survival of the species, e.g. reproduction, attachment to, and care for offspring. In this context, so this theory off the start, even though he's not quoting it here, he really should be. This theory relies on the selfish gene being fact. For this theory, or this hypothesis, I hate calling it a theory because it's just not when it's been peer-reviewed by themselves. This hypothesis relies on the selfish gene being fact. And now, whilst I am inclined to believe the selfish gene theory, it, like the theory of evolution, is something that people continually work on to this day because it's not enough. We cannot prove it, so we continuously try to disprove it, and we continuously do disprove it, and then work on it and try to improve it. So this literally, even though he's not mentioning it there by saying the ones that are dedicated to survival of this species, easy reproduction, and then attachment to and care for offspring, relies on Freud's offspring and attachment theories, and also on the selfish gene theory being true. The selfish gene theory is self-preservation and offspring creation. Basically, I believe in the selfish gene myself. I think most animals do have the selfish gene. Most successful animals. But what the selfish gene is, we don't know. That's why it's just a theory. Again, it's just a fun way of describing animals need to reproduce. Why do we have such a need to reproduce across all species? What is this thing that drives us onwards? For us, it's our horniness, but, catch you later, bro. It's our horniness, but, why? What was the evolutionary reason other than to keep reproducing? Where did that first come from? It's as much a philosophical question as it is a question for science. In this context, we will maintain that severe threat may provoke a structural dissociation of the premorbid personality, Van der Hart 2000. So this is to support a work that he first wrote in 2000. In its primary form, this dissociation is between the defensive systems on one hand. You don't normally, in your abstract, discuss how you are writing to maintain a prior held theory of yours. You work to disprove your theory. Right, I knew it. I knew that we'd be able to destroy this stuff in a chapter, but in the abstract alone, did I think that we would find that just by reading the abstract itself, that they would discuss their own failures in following the scientific method? Their own willing and bold arrogance and confidence in not following the scientific method. That's pathetic. This abstract is also right. So the language in the abstract should be clear and concise. I've never seen an abstract that is this size, ever. We've often read the abstract of various things on this channel. It's never this big, is it? Ever. You know that as well as I do. And they're always, the point of the abstract is they're really easy to understand, whereas the rest of the paper is hard. The abstract is there for us lay people and for magazines and journalists and newspapers to form an abstract idea of what it's trying to say and for other people to decide whether or not they want to read it. And in the abstract, they're saying that they're trying to maintain that the severe threat may provoke a structural dissociation of the premorbid personality as espoused by Van der Hart 2000. You never work to maintain your status quo from 10 years prior. You work to destroy, disprove, and improve. How could this have been approved? I'm telling you, it was peer-reviewed by themselves. Exactly. We know so much about bisexuality that disproves the selfish gene to many an angle, but then again we see, but then the selfish gene argument actually encompasses bisexuality and homosexuality by explaining that within society, human race, which is trying to reproduce, there will always be instances of parents dying too young, not being able to care for their young, war, famine, and there will always be situations where same-sex couples have been needed throughout history and evolution to care for the offspring and raise brilliant, amazing, incredible children, be incredible, loving parents to children that would not have parents otherwise. Even the selfish gene argument as it is today literally encompasses homosexuality and bisexuality and all the other sort of stuff, which is why I love the selfish gene argument as it is in its current form these days, where it's been worked upon so fucking much. It's a lovely argument. It's a lovely theory. It is past the point of hypothesis to theory, as is the theory of evolution. When people say, "Oh, but it's theory," it doesn't mean it's proved, and that's no. But there's theory of gravity. We still know gravity's real. There's still just more work to do on all those things. Go get Chinese. Catch you back in a bit. Yeah, this stuff isn't proving that interesting at the moment. It's more interesting from the angle of lol, how obvious. This is why I talk about the cult angle and the awe and the respect angle, because like I do think, Jess, Multiplicity and me, she is way more qualified than I am to speak on any of this. She's spent 6 years at university studying psychology. She either has a master's or she has a BA and BSc in psychology. I'm not sure which it is, but she's well qualified in psychology to call herself a psychologist. She knows how to read papers. She knows how to analyze papers, and she has written meta-analysis and stuff herself of papers. But I think due to her own, probable at the time, hero worship of characters like Van der Hart, lines like this just may not have sprung up to her as such a trigger. Whereas where we're coming in looking with such a critical lens, we sometimes overreact to nothings, but then as a community, you guys there are normally to be like, oh, it's not such a big deal. Or more often as a whole, we're like, no, that's a problem. No, that's a problem. I've never seen something written like that. That's wrong. So, again, any of you that have done anything like psychology, journalism, or any subject at university, you've read papers. You know that this isn't what it's meant to be. Yeah, and cognitive biases always form to confirm your own cognitive biases. To things that make you feel good or that you want to believe are the easiest things to believe. I myself, I just try to, when I am saying something where I know it's something that confirms a cognitive bias that I hold, I will try to make you guys aware. You do often hear me saying it, being like, this thing. I like how this sounds, but I can accept that that's my cognitive biases talking. We all have. There's something that's been studied within psychology and pseudo-pharmacology and pharmacology and stuff known as natural bias, which is, as a species, we have a natural bias. If something's natural, we're more likely to trust it, even though Datura is natural and wasps that lay eggs in children's eyes are natural, and many a poison is natural. We're more likely to trust natural medicines, though, as a whole, as a species, because of our natural bias. We're less likely to think they can harm us anyway. Which is why so many people overdose on fucking like fish oil and various other things every year. Right. Where were we? In its primary form, this dissociation is between the defensive system on one hand and the systems that involve managing daily life and survival of the species on the other hand. To summarize, the essence of the theory of structural dissociation, we argue that traumatic experiences, one. So this is, right. Oh my god, why is he having to write to summarize in his abstract? This is all that was needed in the abstract. We've finally reached the abstract, guys. We've reached the abstract. Psychology theories are some of the hardest to prove, and it's why clinical research psychologists like Jordan Peterson, it is upsetting when they go so crazy because they're essential. And it's why... so this is a conversation we've had a lot on here, and I don't know if you've been here for it, but here in the UK anyway, until the last sort of 10 years, psychology was a BA and now it's a BSc. Ergo, it's gone from being a Bachelor of Arts to being a Bachelor of Science. It's science now. It is a science now. It didn't used to be a science. It used to be more like philosophy. I used to always talk about it as being philosophy of the mind, and I've had to apologize for that because that's psychotherapy. Psychotherapy, Freudian psychotherapy, Jungian psychotherapy, Piagetian psychotherapy, is psychology of the mind. None of it's ever been proven in a scientific using the scientific method, and being theories, they can't be proven in the scientific method. All we can do is disprove them to such an extent. That's why we try to disprove theories. You spend all your time trying to disprove it, and every time you fail to disprove it, that proves it. The proof for gravity is that, because we can't really observe what gravity is. So the proof that gravity exists is that when you try to disprove it, you fail miserably. Jump. Oh, you proved gravity for me. There we go. It exists. I still don't know what it is, Disprove magnetism. Oh, I can't. You got a magnet. Right, I know magnetism exists. I just don't know what it is. So we have to do the same, the diagnosis of DID. We have to keep disproving this shit, which is what I'm doing right now, disproving this shit so that we can write better stuff off the back of it. But I need people who are actual psychologists to listen to me and do this for me, because I'm never going to get a peer-reviewed published paper, am I? Summarize your writing, summarize your summary, peak writing, yeah. This article is published in a journal of neurological science. It's not even fitting, because it's not science. We still don't know what schizophrenia is, but we know it exists, yeah. We're still studying so many genes and trying to, like, we've identified so many different genes, but we're still trying to find, we've identified something like 11 specific genes that cause Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And then there's something like 30 plus assumed missing genes that we're yet to find and identify that they assume are related to it as well. But they haven't found them yet or worked out them yet. That's why, you know, like crypto mining and all that stuff, it was the original codes and algorithms before it became crypto. They were first for, some of you may have even been involved with it like I was. You used to be able to, I think you probably still can, is donate like your spare RAM and computer memory. When it's in sleep mode or something, your computer wouldn't go to sleep, and instead you'd devote it to a gene decoding site. I can't remember what it was. Starting a new job. Good luck, Foxy. Mate, good luck. Seriously. Your psych module relies on real world application. You spend your, yeah, it's about disproving, picking the holes, saying, no, this isn't right. We need to improve here. We need to improve here. And this is why the best summaries will normally be 2 pages worth of problems that they've encountered whilst doing their study or theory. You know, the best ones always have a whole A4 page or 2 A4 pages of, right, I had this problem with it. I had this problem with it. We need to work on this next time. We need to work on this next time. We only can assume this. We can't even make any conclusive statements other than this tiny thing. Like, that's what we're looking for. And we're looking for the abstract to be the length here at the bottom. And this whole shit here to not be there. So to summarize, the abstract, the essence of the theory of structural dissociation of the personality, we argue 1, that traumatic experiences, especially when they occur early in life and involve severe threat to the integrity of the body, may activate psychobiological action systems that have been developed by evolution. And remember, this is why they had to do all this fluff, because they themselves in this abstract are coining action systems as a new term for us to try and understand. This is awful shit. Awful. 2, that due to extreme stress levels in classical as well as evaluative conditioning to traumatic memories, these systems may remain unintegrated to varying degrees. Hey, you guys have heard the start of my sort of like hypothesis on what DID is and stuff. I'd say the start of my hypothesis already is better. Just saying. The start of my hypothesis, I'm working on one and I'm still writing it. I'm literally writing a proper formal hypothesis that I would then love the more knowledgeable people in here to go away and try and figure out how to turn that hypothesis into theory. That's how it works. Figure out a way to disprove my hypothesis, and then if my hypothesis is not disproved, that's the starting of it turning into a theory. I am working on it. Did Twilight go as well? No. We know so little about how the brain works, yeah. Chemicals and electrons and neurotransmitters, and that's why they're just throwing in the sudden throwing in of activate psychobiological action systems is actually hilarious, considering they've just coined the term action systems. And like, so an action system is so briefly addressed as action. So in this paper, we relate detachment from trauma and re-experiencing trauma to emotional operating systems and functional systems. which are two prior described terms from two previous papers that we'd need to read to understand. So first we need to understand functional systems and emotional operating systems, which they're then condensing down to action systems. You know the other warning of a bad paper? Jargon. This isn't how you make something easy to understand. This is how you purposefully obfuscate. Action systems unite. But there shouldn't be all this jargon. Jargon is designed to obfuscate. It's really confusing for me to try and keep up with all this jargon. They're trying to prove two ideas rather than trying to just disprove an idea as well. There is everything wrong with this from the offset. It's incredible. Sometimes you get like, our main objective is to disprove this. Our secondary objective would be to see these things. But the jargon is, I'm confused. And they're trying to, you guys can see how fucked it is, right? Because again, if I try to prove God exists. Oh. God just put a thought in my head. I've proved God exists. That's easy to prove. Disproving what I just said is a lot harder. And that's why the endless argument of does God exist or not exists. Because disproving his existence is actually a lot harder than any atheist is willing to accept. And that is fortunately how philosophy was conducted in the Middle Ages, which turned into empirical sciences, which evolved into our fields of psychology and medicine today. The scientific method has to be followed for a reason. It's one of the things like democracy and stuff that we as a species have been working on and improving and evolving for literal millennia. And we've got it to a pretty good point. And people trying to go backwards on it fucks with my fucking patience. I hate that belief in academia, and I would say the best academics understand that good teachers don't rely. You should be able to make the most. A good teacher can make the most complex subject interesting and entertaining, and understandable for the stupidest person. And we do that through not using jargon. The Gish Gallop, Angie. That is known as the Gish Gallop. Tossing a bunch of arguments at people so that by the time they disprove one of your arguments, but in the time they've disproved one, you've thrown 11 at them, you win, don't you? Gish Galloping. It is the classic technique of the right wing and conspiracy theorists. Yeah, good teachers can teach the dumbest rock in the bunch and make a rock fascinating too. I hate how effective this is, and I hate how unwilling people are to listen to me when I point this stuff out still on places like Twitter. I'm not going to lie, guys, because I'm still trying and it still fails miserably most of the time. People don't want to listen because they cling to this stuff. Somebody yesterday, and I can't remember who, made a comparison to Onno van der Hart being like the Netherlands' Andrew Wakefield, and it didn't resonate with me yesterday, but it really resonated with me today. How right that is. A one-of-a-kind shaming and disgracing by your medical peers. One of a kind. Your medical community saying to you, this is one of a kind, this man is a monster. And yet, anti-vax and theory of structured association, even though all their peers these days actually say no, they're monsters. Truly makes me... Along with Bobo, Cryptid must be one of the original trauma scum, surely. Upholding Jim Crow laws by saying, right. Well, at least you guys now know. I mean, I had wondered for a long time where some of that might come from, and at least we now know that some of it at least comes from this person. So now we need to find out where they got their beliefs from, and we know where the whole everyone has multiple personality disorder, everyone has systems comes from. We need to find out where she got that from, because it won't be her who came up with that idea. Wherever she figured that idea out from or learnt it from is what started the endogenic movement, as per se. More than likely, Clary. Retweeting my stuff and liking my stuff is dangerous on the Twitters. Right. So, then, hey, how often in your fucking academic paper do you just then randomly throw in a quote from somebody else before the introduction, but after the abstract? I don't think I've ever seen that before. I don't think I've... You know their obsession with putting quotes in at the start of chapters? Thanks to that obsession, they put a quote in after the abstract and before the fucking introduction. What the fuck? That's another... I've not seen that before. If that's normal in psychology, that's one, but I've not seen that before. That's just the old I must have a quote from somebody more famous than me thing going at it yet again, I feel. I love it when people are like, yeah, I agree with you on this, but it doesn't mean you're not an asshole. Blocked. And I'm like, but you agree with on everything, you fool. Myers. Mike. Now and again, there occur alterations of the emotional and the apparently normal personalities. The return of the former often heralded by severe headache, dizziness, or by a hysterical convulsion. On its return, the apparently normal personality may recall. The ANP may recall. As in a dream, the distressing emotions revived during the temporary intrusion of the emotional personality, the EP. Is this the original ANP and EP writing? Myers, 1940, page 34. Oh. And why would you include that in your thing on DID? Something so... Hey guys, every time you fucking switch, is it accompanied by... heralded by the severe headache, dizziness, or by hysterical convulsions? Because if it's the hysterical convulsions every time, may I suggest perhaps you have epilepsy and you need to be on epilepsy medications, or interestingly, neuroleptics, quetiapine, and cannabis, same as what I take. On its many traumatized individuals alternate between re-experiencing their trauma and being detached from, or even relatively unaware of the trauma and its effects. Yep, that is a known fact. This alternating pattern has been noted for more than a century by students of psychotraumatology. Psychotraumatology. Janae, 1889. Why? Oh my god. Wait, so this paper is from 2010, and here we have 1994, 1999, 1889, 1904, 1941, 1976, 94, 97, 99. They need to stop referencing things. You're not meant to reference something past 10 years. You can use the occasional historical reference, as they did with Genet 1889, 1904, Gardner 1941, Horowitz 1976. That's fine, to be honest. That's showing a historical legacy. But the 94, the 97, the 99, there had been much more recent work on PTSD and DES and stuff in those time periods in 2010. Historical references also aren't valid. They're interesting. You'd maybe use that. This is the introduction, but it doesn't mean anything, no. Just because something has been studied and talked about since 1889 literally means nothing. That is also a fact. Again, we were talking about hysteria and stuff. This is why I get wound up about dissociation as a whole and prefer depersonalization and derealization, even though I don't use those terms as much. Because it was Genet, it was Pierre Genet who came up with the term, and he was also obsessed with things like hysteria and stuff, and I just... Anyway. Who have observed that it can ensue after different degrees and kinds of traumatization. It is characteristic of PTSD, disorder of extreme stress, and many cases of trauma-related dissociative disorders. And there they reference themselves, Neuhaus, I've already forgotten to say it, Neuenhuis, and Van der Hart, 99. So there they reference themselves for the many cases of trauma-related dissociative disorders. With delayed PTSD, the pattern starts after an extended period of relatively well-functioning. A few traumatized individuals develop dissociative amnesia as the disorder, which involves reported gaps in recall related to the trauma, additional aspects of their prior life, or even all of it. Oh, and then they again reference themselves from 99, and themselves again from 2001. Finally, an in-date reference, still at the limit though. Oh, this is painful. These patients remain amnesiac for an extended period of time. This is like when we were reading Valerie Sinussen's Demon Report and every reference in it was to herself or Van der Hart or Remy Akron. These patients remain amnesic for an extended period of time. Eventual retrieval of the trauma can resolve the disorder. You can cure your DID by just remembering everything. In some cases, a pattern of alternation between amnesia and re-experience of trauma develops. You also can't cure your PTSD by retrieving the trauma. It's not what cures PTSD. It's not what resolves the disorder. Also note that there's no... note how eventual retrieval of the trauma can resolve the disorder doesn't have a reference. But in some cases, a pattern of alteration for review, see Van der Hart et al. 2000. Yeah, again, their reference for this is themselves. Note how they're not referencing any of the PTSD studies to talk about that. Because they're chatting out of their fucking arses. Right, where do you get to your theory, mate? I'm so bored of this. This is painful. In this context, we will maintain that severe threat may provoke a structural dissociation of the premorbid personality, Van der Hart 2000. In its primary form, this dissociation is between the defensive system on one hand and the systems that involve managing daily life and survival of the species on the other hand. Lol. In a little known but important work, Myers, 1940. Oh, he's actually citing this work from 1940 as important. Myers described this primary structural dissociation in terms of its dividedness between the apparently normal personality and the emotional personality, APs and MEPs. Chair is killing me ass. Still is killing me ass, to be honest. Oh, that's fucking painful. Ow. Oh. All right, we're now chilling on my bed. Welcome. My leggies. I can't read you cunts now. For fuck's sake. Alright, 1 sec. Where are you? There you are. So, Mayer's important work in 1940 described this primary structural dissociation in terms of dividedness between the apparently normal personality and the emotional personality. Studying acutely traumatized World War I combat soldiers, Myers observed that the EP recurrently suffers vivid sensoromotor experiences charged with painful affects, which, at least subjectively, closely match the original. No, we cannot, we cannot use any research from 1940s PTSD studies. Yes, we've been studying PTSD since the 1940s, and I disagree. Because this is the thing, Hamira. I don't think DID, I just disagree with everything you're saying. But the main point is why is there so much going on there about something from the 1940s? Completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. There's been subsequent PTSD studies in the last 80 years that supersede anything that Myers might have written about in the 1940s about PTSD. His experiments, I believe, were most likely quite cruel and unfair. You know? There's a reason why we, in PTSD studies, won't see his shit referenced anymore. They keep citing themselves as well. I know, I see another one, Neil House, Quack et al. 99. Something about psychobiological responses to trauma memories. I don't care if you're citing yourself. In this paper, we thus explore the evolutionary and trauma-related origins of the structural dissociation between the ANP and the EP, as involving action systems as well as the factors that maintain this dividedness. In this context, we will also address the increasing complexity of structural dissociation into secondary and tertiary forms that may ensue when trauma involves chronic interpersonal violence and neglect, in particular when children are the victims and caretakers are the perpetrators. Have we debunked this yet? I'm really bored of reading this. It's such obvious shit. Oh my god. I don't know how anyone could read the abstract or introduction and not realize that's the worst. You can't. That's not... This isn't a... You can't. You can't... How did they submit this? This isn't a valid paper. We've failed this already. This wouldn't... This is a hard fail. They've already scored enough minors and majors on this paper. To be honest, I've not seen any minors. I've not seen any spelling errors, which would be minors. But I've seen so many majors that this is a hard fail. I don't know any... There's no university in the UK that would accept this. Like, at all. Even as a first year proposition for a hypothesis. Even as a hypothesis, this shouldn't be acceptable. What the actual shit? This isn't acceptable as a hypothesis. How is this acceptable as a published theory? How did he write a book off the back of this? This is mad. They're just endlessly quoting themselves. Here's Right, let's go have a look at the bibliography. I agree, that's going to be interesting. Let's just have a look at some of these dates here in the Harvard referencing. This is the point where one of you had endless ADHD patients and was really wanted to. Like, if one of you were to just go through this, checking every reference, that would be so interesting, because so often that can bring up problems too. The journal doesn't exist anymore. So, and we can effectively say a non-peer-reviewed paper that existed in a journal that doesn't exist anymore is guiding the majority of DID knowledge, not just on the internet, but in actual therapy. Because you all know the haunted self. You all know the theory of structural dissociation. Well, you don't actually know it. You know the words and the names. We've all seen them and heard them, but people have said online that it means this, it means this, it means this, but 94, 99, 96, 93, 95, 98, 99, 97, 97, 97. So the first chunk of references can't be used. 95, 97, 2001. All right, that's 1. 98, 99, 89, 91, 99, 97, 98, 97, 93, 99, 2001, that's 2. Oh, it's him, though. Oh, I should check that. No, you can't really reference yourself in that way, mate. Because you're trying to prove yourself, and you can't really do that. You shouldn't really... I mean, not really in that way. So we'll leave him on 1 point. 2003, oh, but it's himself again. It's himself. Oh, fail. 97, 98, 96, 98, 9, 96, 2000. We'll let the 2000 in. Give him 2 points. 2000. I don't see his name there, so that's 3 points. 78, 99, 92, 92, 78, 1931, 1889, 1894, 1904, 1907, 1909, 1911, 1919, 1928, 93, 1941, 98, 98. This would be a great, like, history journal on, like, the history of a diagnosis, you know? Perhaps. What was 98, 86, 91, 94, 96, 94, 98. Oh, 2001. And it's not his own name. Oh my gosh, it's not his own name either. He's got 3 points. They've got 3 points, guys. 99, 92, 95, 99, 99, 91, 990, 96, 99, 7, 97, 98, 2000. But no, it's not him. It gets in. It gets in. That's 4 points. 94, 98, 1926, 1990. I'm bored. The first 3 pages of references, 3 A4 pages of references, there are 3 usable references. That's concerning. And then we know that the book that he wrote off the back of this is awarded by him, like he got an award from himself and stuff, you know. We do know how a lot of them were used, though, Clary. I am being uncharitable. As I say, I'd love somebody to go through it properly for me. Because I actually don't have the patience for this level of shit. It's mind-numbing shit. 23 pages in total for the whole document. But they're double stacked newspaper style. Which I don't feel makes it easier to read, or... I don't know. Oh, we see triggers in quotation marks. Oh, wait, what is he calling triggers? Trauma-related symptoms. Patient may curl up in a chair. No. Oh no, it's talking about child's running around, childlike playfulness. Cool. Still quoting people. It's just the whole paper is just them endlessly quoting their former papers in order to prove themselves. I can't read the whole paper. No, I haven't read the whole paper. I said we were going to do it together as a team, and I just actually can't right now. It's too mind-numbingly dumb. It fails to say anything. The abstract is nonsense. Let's read the summary. We've read the abstract, read the introduction. The theory of structured association of the personality. Here we go. And we'll read this. This is, because the rest is his other stuff. This is the stuff that applies to us the most, really. The rest is just a lot of fluff, isn't it, I think. Let's read this. We'll see what we can get through. Yeah, my hips and legs are hurting a bit. So I'm just going to keep standing for a little bit. Standing desk style. Yeah, as I say, you guys are much better at reading this stuff too than I am. I'm very good at reading it very slowly, breaking things down as a group. I'm good at the subtext analysis when in a group setting. I like being a teacher and playing teacher. You know how teachers at school would say you're going to get through a chapter today and then you'd only get through 2 pages? It's that style.